Hello everyone, today I will teach you one of my favorite cold starter, Foie Gras Parfait, and I serve it with pears, red wine reduction and focaccia. So let's do it. And let's start with the bread. For the focaccia, you will need water, plain flour, fresh yeast or even dry one, olive oil, garlic, honey, rosemary and salt. And of course you can experiment even with different herbs if you want to. Start with mixing flour and salt in the bowl and then add the rest of the ingredients. Make sure the water is warm. For the garlic I will use a microplane and the fresh rosemary I will chop roughly with knife. I leave it to mix for around 5 minutes on low speed and then I transfer it into the baking mold. I also put some olive oil on the bottom because there is never enough olive oil in the focaccia, right? Just make the shape of the mold, don't stress about how to roll it exactly because it will fill up the mold later on anyway. And the last step is to cover it with a cling film and leave it to rise until the mold is full. I use the oven on the rising program, but you can just leave it at the room temperature. And in the meantime, let's start with our parfait. But before I can make my final mix, I need to prepare one important ingredient, red wine shallot reduction. That's gonna give me nice color and taste. So I chop 2 big shallots roughly, and the same I will do with 2 cloves of garlic. Then I mix it with wine. Let it cook and reduce it on medium heat. This reduction will give you a lot of taste, so you can also experiment with different alcohols or herbs. And now, let's prepare the rest for the parfait. You will need duck or chicken livers, foie gras, butter, our reduction, eggs, salt and pepper. I have here a nice piece of foie gras. It's frozen, but I don't want to defrost it, so I just chop 200 grams of what I need, and the rest I keep in the freezer for later. Your goal first is to temper all the ingredients so they get the same temperature and you melt the butter. I just use plastic bags and put them in the warm water, but you can also vacuum seal them, but I felt like a waste of bags for this. And let's give something to test to my food inspector. He never had foie gras in his life, so he was a bit hesitant at the start. But in the end, he approved it. At this time, his focaccia already huge, so I want to push it down and leave it to rise again. The dough gets stuck to the cling film, so I would recommend you to take it out a bit earlier or put a bit of oil on the top as well. But it's not a big deal. I use my fingers to make even small holes and again cling film and the oven. So the focaccia needs around 15 minutes more now. So let's make my red wine and balsamic vinegar reduction, which I use for my plating. I mix red wine, balsamic vinegar, sugar and pinch of salt in the pot, and I cook it slowly until I got sort of glaze. I'm using roughly 2 parts of wine, 1 part of the vinegar and few spoons of sugar. It's difficult to give exact recipe because wines and even vinegars can be very different, so try some basic ratio and then you can adjust it at the end if needed. But of course you want to make it sour because the parfait and the bread are more on the sweet side. Focaccia is ready for the baking now, so I chop few dried tomatoes and I put them on the top for decoration and taste. Try to don't push it too much, so don't lose the air. I finish it with mild salt, and I will bake it at 190 degrees Celsius for around 30 minutes. Then make sure you take it out from the mold to cool down, and the bread will be ready for slicing. So the bread is out of the oven, and now let's finish the parfait. Shallot reduction is perfect now, so I leave it to cool down a bit, and let's blend all together. You need to start with the meat and shallots first. Then in few minutes, add slowly eggs. And at the end, slowly butter so the parfait will not split. Seasoning you can put at the start or at the end, that doesn't make any difference. And also you can add any different spices and create your own taste. I would recommend you to strain it with a fine chinois. And then you have to bake it on the tray with water at 110 degrees Celsius for around 30 minutes. The time can be different depending on how much you do and what kind of mold you use, but at the end you should see a light wiggle like similar to crème brûlée. I leave it at the room temperature for around 30 minutes, and then I put it inside the fridge to cool down completely. And in few hours you can take it out. If you get stuck, you can use the blue torch or even a hair dryer, and the parfait is ready to eat. And the last thing I have to prepare is my flambé pear chutney. So let's make it. I'm gonna use these green sour pears, but in general you can use any kind of pears, but you have to adjust the sweet and sour taste at the end. I peel them and chop them into smaller pieces. And then I start with a few spoons of sugar, make a caramel, and then put the pears on the top. I cook it like this on medium heat for a few minutes so the caramel melts and I get more color on them. And the last step, which is optional, is to flambe it. I'm using honey spirit, which I got as like a gift, but you can use your own favorite alcohol. And also use different spices if you want to. I reduce it down a bit and check if I need more salt or something, and the easy chutney is done. I leave it to cool down in the fridge, and then I use piping bag for plating. The last thing I have to do is to cut bread and the parfait for my portion, and let's do the plating. And use a hot knife for parfait, that will make it easier. And by the way guys, few days ago I put my first plating training video on my Patreon page. So if you're in sous chef tier, check that out and leave me some feedback how you like it. And you can also watch second plating from today, because I will do for sure at least 2. And now let's finish it. I start with balsamic vinegar reduction. Very strong, so don't put too much. Then a nice piece of my foie gras parfait. Slice of my focaccia with dried tomatoes. Flambéed apple chutney. And I will finish it with few colorful herbs. And I mean, this looks super cool to me, and the taste is even better. If you have any questions about the recipe, let me know in the comments. And if you want to learn another cool fine dining cold starter, check out this video and learn my recipe with fish mosaic. Thank you for watching, guys, and I see you soon. Needs around 15 minutes.